Hey there, my name is Chris Hernandez, and this is my fingerboard method for beginning bassists. After working with students from children to adults in private settings, camp settings, public school, and private school settings, I developed this method because it provides clarity early on and helps bassists to advance quickly. As a public school teacher, this fingerboard method has helped my students by removing some barriers and advancing their skills at astonishing rates. Its specific anchors and guides demystify the fingerboard right from the start. At first glance, the different colors and number of tapes may seem intimidating, or might even look weird to you. But trust me, this is going to make your life and your students' lives way easier. In this video, I'm going to explain how to set up this tape system, how the color coding works, and make recommendations as to how long it should be used. This video is a bit more geared towards the bass and orchestra teachers out there, and less so the students. If you're a student watching this, I think it could help you out. Show this video to a teacher or adult that might be able to help you get set up. Now, if you're someone that is anti-fingerboard tapes, hear me out. You might change your mind after watching this video. And if you're a public school teacher, this guide is gold. You're welcome in advance. The system is based off of the fretboard of an electric bass. I use tapes to mark the exact locations of notes, or basically create frets, which are non-existent on the upright bass. I use small dots to mark specific frets, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 12. I use larger dots to provide the thumb with clear anchor points down the neck of the instrument. What we're essentially doing with this system is creating a fretboard made out of tapes and dots for students. The fretboard will cover every note from open string to its octave harmonic located at the halfway point of the string. If you don't know what that means yet, don't worry, we'll get there. The easiest way to do this is with a tuner. You can use an old school tuner, a clip-on tuner, or a tuning app. It's important to first make sure the instrument is in tune. You can review some of our lessons on tuning the instrument if you need help with this. If you're a student, you want to be careful and think about getting some help from an adult or a teacher. The bass you see here is already set up with tapes and dots, so let me explain how I got it to look like this. I started by approximating where each note was on the D string because it allowed me to stay near the center of the board. I basically followed the string down, marking the location of each half step with a pencil. Before I do anything, I want to be sure I understand each note that I'm looking for. Each string will have 13 possible notes, the open string and 12 frets. Here's a chart that explains the note names all the way up. It's color-coded using red, white, and yellow. You may use any color you want or can get access to, but be sure to use the same systems. So if you're going to replace red, you can replace it with green, but just make sure that you're using the exact same system. The chart here features a key that hopefully will help you if you're using other colors. In this chart, the most common name for each note is used first for notes that have enharmonic equivalents or more than one name. Now, this is how I would do it if there were no tapes on the bass yet. I would set the tuner's drone function to provide me with the first note that I need. The first note after D is called E flat, which could also be called D sharp. So I'd play E flat or D sharp on the tuner, listen, get it in my ear, and then find it on the bass. I get the best intonation possible, doubling back with the tuner to make sure I'm in tune, turning off the drone, checking the tuner. Then I mark right at the center of the location of where my finger is. So I will like have my finger down here and I will draw a line straight through the center of my finger with a pencil and kind of just make it meet there. I continue to do this for every single note all the way through the octave. I basically mark it with pencil first and then add the tapes after. By the end of the marking stage, we should have 12 little pencil markings all the way down the center of the fingerboard. Next, I set all 12 tapes on the fingerboard, but do not seal them or set them down yet, because they're really difficult to adjust for intonation once they're set. Instead, I let the tapes hang over on both sides, so I'll kind of have a really long tape so that the tape won't set, so we have this overhang. Making sure that each tape is on in the correct order, the correct colors. Next, I check the intonation of each tape, checking multiple strings to be sure of my choice. When I'm ready, I set the tape and trim both sides so that the tape ends right where the fingerboard does. Next, I use the small dots to mark the player's side of the fingerboard. The dots serve as anchor points and can be easily seen from the playing position. The dots are also hidden from observers. These dots go on the 3rd, 5th, and 9th frets or tapes. I do like to use 2 dots on the fingerboard. I use 1 dot to mark the octave harmonic located at the 12th fret. I use an additional dot at the 7th fret, which should align with the neck heel of any bass that has a D neck, making it extremely easy to find one of the most important positions when it comes to playing the bass, 4th position. In short, having the 2 dots visible on the top of the fingerboard makes specific positions easier to spot as the player begins to play higher and higher. The pattern of these smaller dots follows the system from fretted instruments like the electric bass and guitar. Let's review. 3, 5, 7, 9, and 12. You can use any number of these dots that you wish, as they're only meant to help guide you. I've used all of the dots on the side of the neck. I've used all of the dots on the fingerboard, various combinations, no dots at all. It's really up to you, but I think it's extremely useful and translates well. So I use it all the time for my students, especially in public school settings. Lastly, I like to use the larger dots to create some anchor points for the neck. These anchor points can be felt by the thumb and don't require the player to look, but they're there for when the player might have to peek at the hand. There are only 3 of these, and the first 2 should be placed dead center of the back of the neck. The first one being directly behind our 3rd fret. 1, 2, 3, it's directly behind it. And the second dot being directly behind the 6th fret. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check it out. The final marker goes on the outside of the neck heel, just where the curve shape is beginning to end and turn flat. This marker can be adjusted for hand size and comfort, and it's the only marker I would consider to be optional. The reason it's optional is because you can kind of feel where the neck is ending, but again, it's good to have a visual guide and a guide that you can feel with your thumb. So once the bass is set up like this, it becomes so easy to locate the notes because there's just multiple aspects and aids at play. We have visual aids, which are the tapes and dots. You can see them. You can just identify them once you memorize it. Physical aids, the feeling of the anchors under the fingers and the thumb, right? I can feel the difference of the dot and the neck. I can feel the difference of being on a tape or just on a naked part of the fingerboard. We also take away the barrier of note naming strictly with letters for those that get confused early on. We offer a second option, the fret numbers, which could be easier to remember for some people. Lastly, we set the beginner up with all the necessary tools to transfer the skills they gain on the double bass to the electric bass once they're ready.